Amir, thank you for talking to Frank1.tv as usual. April the 5th is your next fight, Bolton Arena with the WBO number 2, Christensen, which is obviously great. But before we get on to that, just a quick recap for your fight from Gary Sinclair. First time, 12 rounds. What has that done for you?
It's done a lot for me, and I've told myself, look, I can go in the ring and do 12 rounds. The training me and Oliver do in the gym and Phil, it pays off. It's the right training for 12 rounds, and I thought it'd be a lot harder than it was. But that just shows that more time and effort you put in the gym and train hard, the way you train hard, it just pays off in the fight, and that's what I've learned. So I go in the gym and I just train hard there, and I'm sure it'll pay off in the ring. But I learned more off that fight than my last 5 fights. Doing 12 rounds, you learn more off that fight. On paper, it might just look normal, but to be honest with you, I think it's maybe a better fight, and I'll see the differences in the next fight.
You said you learnt more than off your last 5 fights. What did you learn specifically? What did you think you learnt?
You learn, stamina, and you get to trust your fitness in the ring, and also confidence, self-confidence. Also, when I was fighting, and sometimes I was under pressure, I had to turn it around, where I had to put the pressure onto him and fight backwards on my back foot. In the later rounds, if I can fight back, and I did do that, and I can fight in good style, if I can still keep my boxing head on and not get frustrated. And I did all that in the whole 12 rounds. I learned so much in that fight.
With you, Amir, every time somebody flags up a possible weakness of yours, he hasn't gone 12 rounds, and you go and you prove them wrong, it actually almost puts more pressure on you, because then people expect more from you. So now they're saying, well, what's next for you? Is it the European title? When is it going to be a world title? In the ideal world, what would you like to happen next? I know you have to get past this very dangerous Dane on the 5th of April, but, where would you like to go next?
I like to fight, fight for the European and the world. But this year is my year. I want to become a world champion this year, and if I don't break the record of becoming the youngest world champion, then I'm gonna win records in other ways, by probably becoming the first to win many weight categories, becoming a world champion in many weight categories. But it's boxing is a difficult sport. You can't say much. I just have to go with the flow. If it was up to me, I'd fight next week for a world title fight. But Frank's looking after me. He's taking me the right direction. And I think if you look back, 4 or 5 fights ago, I think no one would have thought I'd be this far. So who knows in the next 4 or 5 fights how much I'll be better. I think in the next 4 to 5 fights I will be a world champion. I'll be up there with amongst Joan Diaz, Katsidis, and I'd like to fight them guys as well.
Let's talk about Joan Diaz. He's an incredible champion. He's got 3 of the sort of major belts. We know that David Diaz has the other belt, the WBC, I think isn't it? Now, you could get past this Dane Christensen, who's number 2 WBO, and that's pushing you up to be a mandatory contender. But Joan Diaz is no, obviously joke. He's a serious champion.
He's at his peak as well. Joan Diaz is at his peak, and I'm not scared of anyone. If the fight was made for me and Joan Diaz, then I would prepare for that fight, and I will go in the fight and give him the hardest fight in the world, and go in there and beat him. I don't go in a fight if I'm not going to win the fight. I go in every fight to win the fight, and that's what I'll do. I'll go in the fight to beat him. And he's at his peak. He's still young and he's strong. But every fighter has his weaknesses, and I think for most people, my hand speed, my power, having them two together, my footwork, my movements, I cause a lot of problems to any fighter in the world.